Hey everybody, welcome to Represent Jesus Well, an RCC podcast where we uncover ways people endure, live, and lead that, like the title says, represent Jesus well. And today, honestly, it's a really big honor, and I'm really grateful that Char Rake has decided to come. Charlotte Rake, Char Rake, whatever you want to say, has come to sit down with me here. Char has been part of our church for a couple years now, number of years, and you have been such a bright, fun face to see on Sunday mornings. You're great with you just make people feel good when you see them, and I've experienced that with you. So thank you for that. But also, you've endured some life in the last little bit.
Yeah, I would say so.
Well, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
First, can you just introduce yourself a little bit and tell people just a couple tidbits of how you came to be part of this church?
For mine, it's interesting because I moved to Berlin to be closer to my grandkids and my daughter. And my best friends in Green Bay, who are Pam and Bill is a brother to Kathy.
Oh, wow. Kathy was our program director here.
Correct.
That's awesome.
So they introduced us because I was looking for a church here. And so we went out to supper, introduced me to Kathy and Bob, and just started coming to RCC then.
Awesome. And you're still here.
And I'm still here. I haven't been scared off yet.
That's awesome. That's so great. So the reason I wanted to sit down and chat with you is, in part, even before this last couple of years of some difficult things, you've just always been a type of person that brings a very calm presence into the room. Has that people said that about you before?
People have been saying that. I don't see it, but I guess the important thing is they see it.
Yeah, totally.
And but yeah, I've been told that even at work.
Really?
And it's like, what is about my presence that people are just comfortable and they're happy and they smile, and all I can say is it's the good Lord's light. Yeah, it really is.
That's awesome. I think what I think is great is literally I sense it in myself. Like when I've seen you the last little bit, and we'll get into why that matters in just a moment. But there are some people where you come across them and your shoulders go down, and your anxiety level goes down, and that's a beautiful compliment. I hope you receive it as that.
Yes, I do.
And then, but I'm curious. You said something interesting. You said that you don't necessarily see it, but you're glad other people do. On the inside, do you feel calm?
I feel it.
Okay, good.
I do feel it. Oh my goodness, I feel it.
Awesome.
I also equate it to I can feel people's prayers.
Oh, really?
It's, through everything that was going on, and people would say, we're praying. So I feel prayers going up, and I feel Jesus is come down.
Oh, man.
And it's just a wonderful, calming feeling.
Man. Okay. We've alluded to it a couple times in a minute. So I'm just going to ask you, can you tell people who are listening a little bit about tell me what you've been going through the last couple of years here.
Well, of course, we all know COVID was in there.
Yeah.
So COVID was a hard thing because I had just moved. I had just started with the church. Yeah. I was just starting in group. But also, I moved in Berlin in October, and in December, coming home on I-41, I was in a car accident.
Yeah.
So COVID started in March. In April, I had to have my first back surgery. So the wonderful thing about all of this is I was not afraid.
Okay.
I was not afraid. I wasn't afraid of the surgery. I wasn't afraid. The pain was real, very real.
I can imagine.
But going through all of that, and then the first surgery did not work.
Yeah, that's no fun.
No. So within a year, we had to do a second surgery. And at the same time that we were scheduling the second surgery for a back fusion, I was also diagnosed with breast cancer.
Yeah.
So talk about a double whammy.
What was it like to get that news?
Devastation. We all go through this fear at first with bad news. And instead of turning to Jesus. It was initial fear because they told me before they even did the autopsy. The autopsy was just about what kind of cancer I had. They could tell on the imaging that it was cancer.
Wow.
So I had nobody around. I had nobody with me, to redirect my thoughts, to redirect my feelings, to refocus. And all I could see and hear was that big C word, cancer.
Yeah. In the midst of having to go through another surgery too.
Right. So I had to make a choice. I had to make a choice then and there, either back surgery or my lumpectomy. I needed to walk, and I was in so much pain with my back. So I chose the back surgery first, and my oncology surgeon was highly upset.
No kidding.
And the reason being is the cancer that I had was aggressive and fast growing.
Wow.
So in a matter of 6 weeks, it had already grown 2 millimeters. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it is.
Yeah.
It is.
I can only imagine. Wild. So you choose back surgery.
Correct.
And how long does that put off?
4 weeks. So I had back surgery at the end of December, so almost a year ago. And then 4 weeks later, I had the breast surgery for cancer. And then 4 weeks later, I had chemo started. And then 6 weeks after that, we had radiation. So there has not been really any downtime for anything.
Yeah.
No true healing in between anything. It's just, let's move on to the next. Let's move on to the next.
That's a lot to take in.
Yes, it is.
When was it hardest?
The initial day. The initial day that they read the imaging and they said it was cancer, and they said I had to go in for a biopsy. All I heard was cancer. That was the hardest day because you never expect it. There's no breast cancer in my family. Where would this come from? Mine's a fluke, by the way.
Okay. Yours is a fluke. Okay.
Mine's a fluke. That's how we rate it. It's a fluke because there's no rhyme or reason for it. It's just there.
Yeah. Okay. So that day is awful and you're in shock, but you have to make a choice and you choose the back surgery. Mm-hmm. And then this kind of propels forward week after week after week of changing and shifting medical issues and changes. And in the midst of that, I'm just curious, like what are the things you went to? Like there's a dark moment, but how did you turn the page? And did you? Like was it back and forth? How did that feel?
I never had the back and forth. That day that I got the notice, that it was cancer. Of course, I cried. I was scared. I was fearful. It's like, what am I going to do? We've got both things going on. And I would have to say probably about 48 hours later for everything to finally sink in. And what I did, and I should have done in the first place, was I reached for my Bible. Mm-hmm. And I just, wherever I turned is where I started reading. It didn't matter. I needed to be close to Jesus. I needed to be strengthened by him. And I knew he's the only one that could do that. He's the only one that's going to get me from one step to the next. And there was no looking back.
What changed? So you made that moment where you went there. So I'm guessing that your history is that you've looked to him in the past.
Correct.
So it was like a practice, basically.
Correct.
So you went and you followed the practice that has guided you for much of your life. What happened in that moment where you started looking? Like what changed inside of you?
Don't waste my cancer. Don't waste it.
So, don't waste my cancer was your first thought.
Yes.
Tell me more about that.
Not wasting my cancer there's so many blessings that have occurred throughout my cancer, throughout the whole process. family members coming together, family members still together, and just my growth in my relationship with Christ, and sharing what I could with anyone else, whether they were going through cancer or any hardship, that he's the one you need to rely on. And there is a book that's been wrote that says, do not waste your cancer.
Yeah.
And it is amazing because you can take that word cancer out and you can put anything in there. And so that was my first thing, was don't waste my cancer. And then I got the book.
Okay.
And it's just a little 20-page leaflet, but it is so packed. And I can't even remember who the author is right now. But in that is looking at what God had allowed in me to grow and to share. And there are so many people who need that.
Yeah.
So it's like, just don't waste it.
So over the course of the past year, there have been times where you've started coming back to church, and after crazy COVID and then this and then being there, and you didn't have hair for a while.
Oh yeah.
You had all kinds of fun things, but I remember we've had conversations over the past number of months, and in those conversations, that's definitely been a theme for you, the don't waste it part.
Right.
But then also, so let's talk about that for a second. Then I want to get to the how that changed just the way you lived. So let's talk about how he didn't waste it, because you said, and I agree with you so much in this, you can put anything in that blank.
Correct.
Whether it's cancer or a difficult season of life.
Correct.
Or any kind of diagnosis, any kind of struggle, you can put that in there. How did that change the way you woke up in the morning? So like you go through your day then, and like, what were you looking for? That's the question. What were you looking for?
So the biggest question waking up was, for me, first of all, I wake up praising the Lord. I am so thankful to be filled with joy, to be filled with him. And then my first question to him is, Lord, how can I serve and glorify you today?
Yeah.
It could be as small as somebody coming into my office at work that needs to just release whatever's going on, or over this last year, what's really been wonderful is people in our company that I work for will either reach out to me through email or come into my office and say, Char, I need prayer. Mm-hmm. Can you pray with me? Can you pray for us? And they may not be strong believers, or they're just lost a little bit. But it's how I can serve and glorify him.
Yeah.
So for me, that's how I go about not wasting my cancer, not wasting anything.
There's a temptation with this to sugarcoat things. How did you? Because I've talked to plenty of Christians who give the holy answer, but I know there's a lot of deep, uncomfortable hurt and difficulty underneath it. How did you avoid, or did you have to struggle with sugarcoating it?
I don't sugarcoat.
Okay, but how do you do that, right? Like, what was in you, and how do you walk that line between saying God is good and this sucks?
Oh, I never thought of it that way. Sugarcoating. I don't sugarcoat. So when I'm talking to other people, I don't. I'm not rude and blunt to just being, well, this is the way it is.
Yeah.
But love and encouragement, even in talking to Jesus, just myself, it's still full of love. It's still full of encouragement, and how we speak and the words we choose, but the words aren't coming from me.
Sure.
The words are, given to me by the Holy Spirit, and it's not like he gives me every word or everything to say, but a guideline is how it should come out in my tone.
Yeah.
Or Because let's face it, sometimes life sucks.
It does. It totally does.
And I could say that for the last, really, if you want to think about it, I could say that for the last 8 years, life sucks. From my husband at the time walking out and quitting our marriage after 26 years to, the accident, the surgeries, the cancer. Life sucks. Relationship with kids. Life sucks.
Yeah.
But life is full of joy. There's more joy than anything else.
Yeah.
You can't let Satan show you that life sucks all the time. What you take and you turn it around. He gives it, you just turn it around and like a big snowball, throw it back in his face.
Sure. And that's your don't waste this cancer. Don't waste this accident. Don't waste this difficult season.
Right.
And it seems like there's this purpose in that you've been able to find that makes it so that you're not saying it's all peaches and roses.
No.
But at the same time, you still wake up in the morning wanting to see how God's going to work.
Correct.
Correct. And you've seen him work.
I've seen him work every day. Every day. My strength is shot. Mm-hmm. My stamina is shot. And the only way I get through, even from the first day after treatment, the first chemo treatment, I was like, yeah, this isn't bad. I can just go on with this. And, there's 6 treatments. We can do this, But they don't really tell you that it takes 3 or 4 days before the effects of the chemo really set in. And it was not good. I was curled up in a ball in the fetus position, bawling my eyes out because I was in so much pain. It sucked.
Yeah. What got you? So that's exactly the moment I want to know about. So that's the hard moment. And what do you do in that moment not to say, God, I'm so mad at you? Or did you?
No. People have asked me that prior. God didn't create this because God doesn't hurt us.
Yeah.
He allowed it for whatever reason, whether it's to help me persevere, to grow, to help others. How am I going to help another person, another woman going through breast cancer, if I don't know what it's like either?
Yeah.
I can't help her. I can't sympathize with her. I can empathy, but I can't sympathize. But now I know what it is. And now I know the struggles another woman's going to face. And anybody with cancer, really, that moment, I cried and I cried and I cried. And I mean, bawling like a baby because I was in so much pain. Never once was I angry, but reached out to him and just asked him to help me get through it.
Yeah.
How do I get through this? How do I get through that pain? They tell you, the doctor's office tells you, oh, it's going to be like flu symptoms. You're going to feel achy.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Not for you, huh?
No. It was horrible, just horrible.
Okay.
So, and then after probably about 5 days, each day got a little bit better with the pain, and which is normal with chemo treatments. So you go 3 weeks. Mine was every 3 weeks. And by the time I would go back in for the next treatment, it was like, yeah, I'm ready to go out dancing and just having a wonderful time. And, I'm feeling good. And then, bam, you get hit with it again.
So that's 6 rounds of that.
6 rounds. So,
and does each one get worse?
Yes. Each one gets more symptoms, deeper symptoms. They last longer. Each one gets worse.
Okay. We're talking about representing Jesus well.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So this idea that as we are followers of Jesus, we become his ambassadors. We become his representatives to our friends. And it's not something we can fake. You can only fake it for so long. You can only put on a happy face for so long. It's something that has to literally come out of us because we have a relationship with him.
Absolutely.
I saw that happening when you would walk into church and I would ask you the question, how are you, in a way that gets past the "how are ya" moment, right? And you genuinely said good.
Yeah.
It's hard, but it's good. And that was this picture of me where you were putting the quality of your life, it was based on something very different than the circumstances you were enduring. Tell me about that.
You know, the saying is fake it until you make it.
Yeah. No.
It's not like that. Because like you said, there's no faking this. It is a true, deep relationship that grows every day with the Lord. No, I wasn't always, peachy keen, because I hurt. But I can't, it's really hard to explain.
That's okay.
I think the first thing is because there was no anger. I never had anger. And I think with the anger comes that fake-itness that goes on. And I never had that. So mine was all upfront, in deep, true relationship with Jesus. And representing him is what he is doing inside of me, where his light shines out.
Yeah.
And no, I never said everything was peachy keen.
No, and that was the balance you found that I found really beautiful and really encouraging.
Contentment.
Yeah.
Contentment in where God had me at that moment, and whether it was the process of whether it was healing from the back surgery, whether it was another treatment, it was being content where God has me.
That's really good.
And it's big to admit or to accept it.
Yeah. Because, oh man, so this moment of like, this is my circumstances. I can only do so much to change them. Some things I just can't change. And God has me here. And don't waste it, God. But I'm just going to have my eyes open to what you're going to do. And yeah, I'm going to have to endure some pain. Lots of pain. But if it's for your glory, I'm going to do it.
Correct.
And I think some people looking in would say that's crazy, right? If you're not a Christian.
Absolutely.
And so, why isn't it crazy?
Why isn't it crazy?
Yeah, like from your mind, like you've experienced it. Like I guess the reason it's not crazy is because you've experienced it and you've seen the benefit.
Because going into each time I went into the treatment center, it's not just me in there. It's a big room with a lot of chairs, maybe some private rooms. And walking in there, I see so many people that had no hope. You can see hope in people.
Yeah.
You can see it. And there were so many of them that didn't have hope. It was like, okay, I have cancer. I'm going to let it just do whatever. So the cancer controlled their life. Jesus controlled mine. And being able to go in there and with a smile, with brightness, a spring in my step, it didn't matter. You can almost see where some people kind of grab a little bit of that hope.
Yeah.
And that made a world of difference. Did I talk to them? No. You know who you can approach and who you can't. But even just a smile, a nod, a hi,
Yeah.
it gives them just that little bit of hope. And that's where I believe, where I guess I could see Jesus through me, is they would get that little bit of hope, that little bit of a smile or that little nod to acknowledge. It's like, Jesus, show them.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing from you is that there is this ability for you to trust Jesus
Yes.
through this. And because of that trust, it enabled you to live each of these days differently. And people could see it.
Yes.
And literally that act of trusting changed your demeanor, changed the way your days went, and it was a light that other people could catch a glimpse of.
Absolutely.
And they could grab a little bit for themselves, and maybe in some cases there was a spark that made more, right? That's wild and beautiful. As you're at that spot right now, can I just ask, and we talked about this a little bit
Yes.
before we turned the cameras on, but
Yes.
where is your health at right now?
So I was told that there is no more cancer, but we have not fully tested. And the full testing comes in January, so they wait 6 months after your last radiation treatment. But their theory is, because I've gone through the surgery, I've gone through the chemo, I've gone through the radiation, the cancer, in their eyes is gone. But I do trust the Lord. We still want to see proof.
Yeah. So that's really, I love that moment, because you trust God, but not to give you a perfect set of circumstances in the future.
Correct.
You don't necessarily trust the doctors
No.
of like saying it's fine until they show you proof.
Correct.
Which is great. Like that makes sense, and I'm sure you have all kinds of respect for the doctors.
Absolutely.
But your trust in God isn't that everything's going to be okay in this life. It's different. Tell me about that.
The trust that I have in Jesus is, the only word I can put with it is pure.
Sure.
If I don't trust him, how am I going to take that next step?
Sure, yeah.
If I don't trust him, how am I going to be able to serve and glorify him? If I don't trust him, what is my purpose?
The last one, purpose. Is that more important than circumstances for you?
Yes.
How?
My circumstances are, we make our own choices. That's our free will. And there are consequences how you go about. And for me, if I don't pray for something, or I ask the Lord to show me my path, and I just choose and run with it, there's a consequence to it. So the purpose is to fulfill his will. And the way I live, I follow his commands, and to glorify him. I'm not always going to make the right choice.
Of course not.
But my purpose overshadows my circumstance.
And there's joy in it?
There is more joy than I can share with you. Just in the relationship and the growth. I didn't come to Christ until he started reaching for my heart in around 2009. And when he finally softened my heart, it was hard. It was so hard. And I couldn't stop crying. I hadn't cried for years, and I couldn't stop crying. I cried so much, I even called the doctor and said, "Doc, can you become dehydrated from crying too much?"
That's wild.
So my growth in my relationship with him has created this purpose where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
And it's been a long road, and it's been a long, at times, temper tantrums, because I am not going that route. Yeah. I am not choosing that. I am not going to accept that. But once you accept and are content, then the purpose is there.
Man, I've loved every bit of talking with you about this, because it just puts so much into perspective. And I love how you distinguish between consequences. I love how you distinguish between your circumstances and your purpose, and how that sometimes life's gonna be pretty sucky.
Yes.
But when you can in the midst of that hardship and struggle, have a purpose,
Yes.
it really changes it. And that's the source of joy. The source of joy is following God no matter the circumstances, and having that purpose be fulfilled. And there's
Right.
such a fulfillment there. And because of that, I love that distinction, because so often everything we do is try to figure out how to control our circumstances so that we'll be happy. But that has nothing to do with our happiness.
Mm-mm.
And so when we're talking about representing Jesus well, the way that we're able to do that in the midst of enduring difficulties is to really hone in on our purpose.
Yes.
And hone in on the purpose of bringing God glory in the way we act, live, are kind, all those things.
Absolutely.
And trust. Char, this has been an absolute pleasure to sit down with you. I'm sure we could talk for another hour or two, and I'm sure that might happen in the future. Thank you so much for being on here.
Thank you for asking me. I appreciate it.
Awesome.
And I just hope that, anybody, this will help, reach out. And if there's anything I can do, just reach out to me.
Fantastic. Thanks so much. Thanks for
you.
listening in, and we'll see you next time.